All right, y'all. So I'm gonna tell y'all a couple downloads I had, but I'm gonna keep it surface level. The first one I heard was the song was money, 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 money. And then I heard some people got to have it. Hey, hey, hey. I heard that. And then I heard Mother Dearest, no, Mommy Dearest, Mother Dearest, right? Have anybody ever seen Mother Dearest? If you haven't, go check that out. It's a very, very old movie, and it was about this woman who was very strict, and she would go out in front of the limelight, right? Her fan base or whatever, right? She would act this certain type of way, but behind the scenes, she was beating on this little girl, and she was real jealous of her, right? Beating her. She was like, scrub it, scrub it, scrub it, scrub it. She was making her scrub the bathroom floor, and she was acting all crazy and delirious. Scrub it, scrub it, scrub it, scrub it, scrub it. And she had like wire hangers, and y'all, it's crazy. You better go watch. It's called Mother Dearest. And our Mommy Dearest, our Mother Dearest. And what was the other download that guy gave me? He gave me another download. Whew. Idols 666, the number 666 today. And up under that, it was a song called Idols. Is it? Yeah, My Idols. And the girl sing the song, she was talking about her idols and stuff like that, like her TV idols and all this stuff, right? And I just want to say, right, I'm still trying to search for the meaning of why God gave me this, right? I think I know why. You got people out there that is saying that they're serving God, and these people are not of God. They are about what they can get out of the thing, out of that, whatever it is they doing, and even if they got to use God. And I just want to say that these people are in a lot of trouble. They're in a lot of boo-boo. I know you like to think, yo, don't stink, but lean a little bit closer and your roses really smell like boo-boo, right? Caroline. And God be having some stuff come to my head, right? Another thing this God was showing me is that this woman behind the scene doing all this nasty stuff towards me, and I couldn't believe the face that God was showing me, and it was a pastor, and she was behind the scene doing all this nasty stuff towards me and some other people who really got good views on the word and God and stuff like that, right? These people are very about fear, fear, fear. Don't leave me, girl. Please stay with me tonight. No, baby, no, baby, no, baby. Don't leave me. Right? And what it is that a lot of people are about to start walking away from these people who are claiming that they're from God because of the fear base, because of they watching 9/11 on the clock. 9/11 on the clock. Because they're watching these people be big bullies. These people want to be worshipped. And another thing that God, that's what I'm about to say, another thing that God has been bringing up to my forefront is all these different saints. The song I was hearing, oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, how I want to be of that number, oh, when the saints go marching in. This person wants to be a saint. They want to, when they die, they want to be labeled as a saint, right? God been letting all these different saints that a lot of people don't know that these women was saint, like Saint Luenda. Saint Luenda was a saint. A lot of people don't know about her. She fell ill. She didn't fall ill. She had slipped on some ice. And when she slipped on the ice, her parents thought it was just a little fracture in her back. But she ended up never walking again. And she ended up becoming a saint. And this girl had devoted herself at a very young age, right? Her family was in poverty. And by her family being in poverty, when she started to grow up, she was young and beautiful. And so her family figured, well, she's going to be able to marry into wealth and riches because of her beauty. They was like, okay, we can finally come out of poverty because she's beautiful. She's a beautiful young girl, and she's going to marry somebody tall, handsome, and rich. And one day she ended up going to her mother and her father, and she said, hey, I don't want to be married. She loved God. She wanted to devote her life to God and Jesus, right? She had fell in love with them. And so when I heard her story, I think about witchcraft and stuff like that, right? I don't know why that came to my mind when God let this video, the story of this young lady come to the forefront, right? And I said to myself, some people parents are so nasty and so evil. I don't care what type of role they playing. I don't care who they going up in the forefront and presenting themselves as and how connected to God they trying to act like. Take yourself out of that shoe as a child, as a mother, as a father, or whatever you is to a person, as auntie, as uncle, and see that person for who they are, right? As if they wasn't connected to you. See, we look at people in a certain way because we're connected to them, right? And we automatically label them as that because they're connected to us, right? And so sometimes we have to take a step back and position away that they're playing in our lives and look at their behavior. Some of these people are doing stuff to stick people to them. Some of these people are sending out minions to be demons in people's lives. And then they sit and say that they're connected to God. And I'm going to say again, God gave me 999. And I went to the Bible with it. And it landed me, that page 999, landed me where God was saying, Jesus was saying that I'm the son of the Most High God. And if I'm connected to God, you saying you connected to God, there's no way that you connected to God. When I'm telling you I'm connected to God and I'm watching your behavior and I'm watching what y'all doing, right? Now keep watching y'all trying to discredit the Most High God. You're not connected to God, right? But because of the positions that these people played, the high priestess, and the positions and the labels and the titles that they had on their name, right? People was teeter-tottering. Should we go with Jesus? Dang, or should we go with these people and what they saying because of their names and their titles, right? And so, and what they done and what they did to get there and all these things, right? They went to school and they was labeled this by the people and by special hands of this earth, right? But God said what he said. And Jesus came from a little bitty old town, was raised by a regular man and woman, and went out there and did what God called him to do. And he said, I'm the son of God. And they kept saying, you ain't connected to him. You ain't connected to him. You ain't connected to him. And he showed them time and time again. And these people kept coming and kept coming and kept coming and kept coming, right? But this history repeats itself, right? God sends the Savior come, and a few followers, and then they all fall off because they scared. They turn a blind eye to what a person is doing to somebody because they scared. I don't want nothing to do with that. I don't want nothing to do with that. These people in these churches, I don't want nothing to do with that, you know. I'm going to turn a blind eye to. But they talking about they connected to God, but they don't believe in justice. But they watching somebody do something, they still following that person. They watching that person talk about somebody like a dog that's not of God, and they still following that person. And then this person go on the back and playing in witchcraft and going into these different things. And because of who they saying that they is and how they connected to God and what they are, right? These names. And y'all still following these people. Y'all are going to be held liable too. God is wanting me to highlight that for a lot of people who are still following these wicked people. And you're seeing that they're wicked. You're seeing that they mask has fell off, right? And a lot of these people got a lot of punishment and torture to they words and what they're putting out there, right? Because this, that, and the other, and that's going to happen to you, and a lot of fear based. Let me tell you something. I was raised in church. I was born and raised in the church, honey. Let me tell you something. I was in church so much so that I remember my caretaker would take me to church, and we would sit there for hours and hours and hours and hours. And as a little kid, you sitting there for hours, and you like, dang, is you gonna feed me? Feed me, Seymour, feed me. We babies in church being tortured because of this word. And when I look back over, I was speaking to another elder in my family. Man, we just had the crazy, just bust out laughing, man. We was on the phone one day, and we was talking about like our scars, like, man. And this person came up before me, and they endured the same thing as me, right? And they was, well before me. They was a generation before me, and a hierarchy in my life. And I went to this person I was talking about church. I said, man, we used to sit in church for hours, man. We was cracking up laughing. And he like, man, he said, you know what I found out once I got older and I got out here and he went out here and he lived his life and he was doing this and doing that, right? He said, you know what I came to terms with that? He said, Pastor such and such was on cocaine, man. I was on the floor in here cracking up. He said, ain't no way in the heck a person sitting up there for 12 hours straight, kids in there, knowing babies in there, the babies ain't. He said, I just want to know what was wrong with the people who was following that and who was listening to that. You know, as you get older, you see that wasn't nothing about that, right? Church service for 12 hours and everybody ain't ate. He said that M-word was on cocaine, man. I was on the floor. He said only a person on cocaine could talk that long about God, scream, hoot, and holler. He said that babies in there sitting there ain't ate all day and the parents sitting there then followed the fear base and now instilling it to us to do that stuff to our kids. He said, thank God, man. Thank God we got away, right? I said everything was fear. Everything was fear. Everything was so much fear, right? A lot of these, I was listening to this one lady, and she said that she had something had told her, called her back to her hometown and to go to her church, right? And she was crying because she said that when she went inside there, she just seen how empty it was and some of her childhood memories came back flooding to her. And she didn't understand why the place was so empty, right? She like, dang, when we was kids, it used to be like this, used to be like that. Yeah, the churches used to be full. People go sit on the pews, people didn't mind, and this, that, and the other, right? Because it was so much fear in there, right? And they did it purposely. Passing the plate around 6 times. He hired in a giraffe's tail, right? And I ain't gonna just put that on him, but I'm just saying though. I'm not gonna just put that on him. I don't know for sure, but I'm just saying. There's no way. And they're passing the collection plate around and doing all this crazy stuff, man. Babies in there hungry as I don't know what. And this other guy came in and took over for our actual pastor, 919 on the clock. Took over for our actual pastor. And he was way a funner guy, right? The one pastor, he ended up leaving out of town and staying out there and preaching out there. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, thank you, God. But once he finally stepped in, he was way funner. He had like the outreach programs going on. You know, he would have food in the basement for us and stuff, you know. And this was like years later. And you know, he had took over and he started to do a good thing. Programs together for us to be a part of stuff, the babies to be part of stuff, right? Because back then, I can't remember, they used to have somebody singing. When that person got there and sang, y'all, they was singing forever. Like, y'all know when they first get up there, I forgot the name of it, y'all. When you first go in, everybody, they was singing for hours. Hours. They was singing for hours. Then here come the pastor. Oh my God, y'all still remember the smell? It makes me sick. The smell of the church, it makes me sick. Oh, that's how me and the person got on the subject, because this person was talking about they had went to church and stuff like that, and I told him how I felt about that church. I said something ain't right, and I said I went in there too, and I said I never went back. I said, you know, I was going through something. I said, let me go out there. Man, I done tried over and over again. I try to tell myself that we could never be more than friends. Woo, that was some stuff. And come to find out later on, they found out at that church that that pastor was in there selling little girls. And they found him in a hotel with a little girl selling her. The pastor of the place that this person who I was talking to. I kept saying, that's something about that ain't right. I said, God has left the building. You know, I don't feel Christ in there. Right? You go inside. It's been places I went into and I felt God, the presence of God. There's been places I went into and I did not. Right? And I ain't going to lie about it. I ain't going to talk about it like a dog, but I'm just saying. And so, and then they say, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble. Trouble. You said that, trouble. Man, I lived in fear my whole life for saying something, but they do it like that because they know what they doing is not right, man. It's not right. And then when you say something about it, trouble, trouble, right? And I'm not being mocking. I'm saying that these people, time and time again, y'all look. Then I tried to go back again later on in my life. I was already scarred from that. Then I went back by myself. I didn't feel it. I left. And then I went back again, and one of my homegirls invited me, but she did it on purpose. She invited me, and she said, you want to go to church with me? And I said, girl, I don't know. She said, come on, move, go to church with me, You can go with me. So I said, forget it, but she was doing it on purpose, but I didn't know why she wanted me to go so bad, right? And so when I finally went in, y'all, I sit there, the first service was okay. I'm like, oh, okay. So the next Sunday come around, she's like, you want to go back? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I might get myself together and this and the other, right? And I'll meet you there tomorrow. Man, we went back again. Yo. They was in there doing the tambourines and clapping and stuff like that. People ain't had the women ain't had no panties on. They was in there twerking. I just seen booty moving. They clapping real hard so they booty can move to the beat, like twerking, like clapping. My granddad used to say, it must be jelly because jam don't shake like that. It must be jam. It must be woo woo. He used to say woo woo. Must be jam because jelly don't shake like that. Y'all, that's what I seen. And I turned around and looked at her, and she had to put her face down in between her legs because she was laughing so freaking hard. And they kept turning around and said, girl, I gotta go. Girl, I gotta go. She was laughing so hard. She said, she hold me down like, no, move, stay. Don't get up and leave. I said, girl. Y'all, I was in there tripping out so bad. They was laughing because she had her friend with her. They was laughing so freaking hard. I'm like, girl. She like, move, this is why I want you to come. She said, I just want to make sure I wasn't tripping, right? I'm like, girl, they ain't got no panties on or nothing. Sister such and such ain't got no panties or no slip on. She laughing so hard, y'all. They was crying, laughing so hard. Because they know that I've always been honest. They like, oh my God. I said, girl. I said, what's going on? This is the devil's playground. I said, this is like Solomon Gomorrah. Girl, I gotta get out of here. I said that now I'm gonna get in trouble. Because I know I ain't playing like that. I ain't twerking to the beat up in no Jesus' house. The Lord's house. And so I said, It was a girl in front of us, y'all. She was clapping so hard. Oh, it just waka. That's all I see. Is the moonwalk, the Millie walk with her booty cheeks. I said, girl, I gotta go. And she like, please don't leave. Y'all, they laughing so hard. I'm like, girl, I ain't laughing, right? I'm mad. Like, what the heck is going on in here? And you know, time went by, right? I got out of there and I'm telling her what I see. And she like, this is why I want you to go, man. She said, I've been thinking about not going. She said, I've been talking to my cousin about it, which was the other girl, right? She like, and there was other ones that went, right? Other people that was a part of my family and her family, like, they was intertwined. And to a point, right? But me and her went to school together and we found out later on that my family knew her family, right? And so I kind of knew the girls, but I didn't know them like that. And then one day, some time went by and she like, Moo, something happened where they had, the church had threw what did you call those things? Like where the pastor put the bouncy house and stuff like that. He had hot dogs and all this stuff, like a little festival outside the church he threw. But she didn't invite me to that, right? She was like, so the next Sunday come around, some time had went, maybe about a month and a half or something like that went by. And I'm like, girl, I ain't going in there, right? And I said, that's Babylon, right? And she laughing. And so she brings some other girls, right? They like, this girl crazy, right? They like, we got to see how she about to respond to this. So she went to the thing. She took her son to the bouncy house place and she didn't call me for whatever reason. And so, maybe probably 2 because I told her I wasn't going no more, right? And so she ended up calling me. I guess whatever happened at the bouncy house place, she like, I'm calling. Crazier is when I started going there, right? I seen like a lot of popular people, like the popular ones in the little city. I'm from a little city, state town, right? It was like all these popular ones in there, and I started noticing. I'm like, girl, that's such and such. Girl, ain't he a professional such and such? Girl, that's such and such. Like, where are all these popular people coming from, right? And she like, girl, they all go here. And I'm like, what? Girl, this is Sin City. Girl. I just seen him at the club last week, child. Wait a minute, right? Sloppy drunk, falling out the bar drunk. You know, y'all excuse me, that's my period. But, they, you know, when I went back up, they laughing again. I'm like, girl, this not funny. Like, this not funny. She like, I know, Moo. She like, girl. She said, we all been kind of talking about it. And she said, I told my people, I'm pretty in Moo. And see what Moo say, right? She said, you know, you always been honest, right? Y'all, when she called me after they had that bouncy house thing, she told me about the bouncy house. She's like, something just wasn't right? She said the collection plate kept going around. She said, and all this stuff, right? I'm like, what you mean? I'm like, I done took my daughter to all type of churches, like where they had little events and stuff like that. I said, I ain't never seen them put out no collection plate at none of those places. She said, girl, they did there. And so I'm like, she lying, right? You got to be lying. Y'all, they pulled out that collection plate, she said, over about 6 or 7 times at the event, at the church event, where they was supposed to be doing something giving back to the community. Yo, I'm like, no, they ain't do that. You lying, right? And she like, girl, she said, I just want to see what he gonna say when we go in church, right? And she said, I want you to be there. She said, because he had an attitude, stank attitude, him and his wife. And she said, we all been talking about it. Like, people been talking about leaving, right? She said, she said, Moo, y'all, when everything got done and over with, and she came back to me, she said, Moo, she said, you don't even know how many people was watching you. And I said, what you mean? She said, I told people you was coming, how you was, and how you was raised. And I said, why did you tell them that? She said, girl, I just wanted honesty. Like, she said, a lot of people been talking about this. It ain't just me and my little crew and our group of girls. She said, we ain't by far perfect, Moo, but come on now. She said, some things just ain't right. And she said, you a person that's always been honest with us about stuff, and you gonna say what it is, right? Y'all, I go back that last time, and I'm sitting there, and he get up there, like, talking, right? He like, and I tell the haters, bye-bye, haters. Bye-bye, haters, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, I know that's right. Y'all, and then he get to talking about, yeah, because once he got the crowd amped up, right? Because that day it was packed. And he got the crowd amped up, and he said, yeah, after he got them all amped up, yeah, because I did something for the community. Me and my wife did something for the community, and we just feel that y'all are ungrateful. People was clapping for him, but majority of them was kind of like ashamed, but they felt like fear. I seen fear. Some people's faces was confusion. Some people was looking like, dang, right? You had some people that was just feeding off into it. Yeah, you right, Pastor. You right. Right? And I'm like, okay, it is what it is. They feel how they feel with him, right? Whatever. But, y'all, when he said next floor at me, I had to go. Old school style. You understand me? He said, I could tell that people didn't no longer want to be there, right? They knew what was going on was wrong, but they was in fear. They had been, I could tell they was raised just like me. Right? And fear instilled in you, stand in the church all day and all night, honor this, do that, right? So much fear. And that's why a lot of stuff, when COVID happened, a lot of people, that was they escape, right? Yo, when COVID happened, I'm gonna go to that in a minute. So, when I went in there, and he said, the next thing he said, y'all said, floored me. He said, yeah, and me and my wife doing out here, stretching our neck out, doing stuff for the community. And we went and counted up the money after the event. For one, if you're doing it for the community and you're doing it with pure intent, you're doing it for the community, right? Getting people out of their houses. People might not have food for the day. That's supposed to be an escape for people to go to have something on their stomach for the day, to have this, that, and the other. Not be ashamed that they ain't got nothing to put in a collection plate. And then come and be scorned with your mouth, who's supposed to be opening this up for the people. Dude, I was floored. That was, I don't even, if I can remember, I don't even think I went to church after that. Me and my wife, what they said, that's what did it. We stuck our neck out for the community. We put all this stuff together. We ordered this and we ordered that. And we passed the collection around, played around. And when we got done counting up the money, wasn't really nothing in there. And we like to go on trips. Me and my wife like to put our foot in the beach. We like to put our feet in the sand. We want to go on a trip. And me and my wife and all we do. And me and my wife in the collection plate. Y'all, I was floored. Like my stomach sank down, right? They watching me, and I didn't know just how many people was watching me, how many people was alerted that I was coming, right? Y'all, my stomach, I got sick. I turned around, I looked at her, I said, what? And she laughing. Now it's other people, right? Sitting on each side of me. She's sitting right next to me, and everybody like laughing, right? That's in my row. And it was a couple people in the front of me and the back of me, right? Directly in the front, directly in the back of me. And they laughing too, like, this girl crazy. I turned around, I looked at her like, she like, Moo, this is why I wanted you to come. It's so many people that don't want to come no more because of this stuff. This is the reason why, right? And she whispering it. I said, girl, I'm going to tell you this much. I'm going to tell you this much before he can get the rest of the service started. While everybody's standing, I said, I got to go, right? Y'all, I was sitting down. I grabbed my purse and put my finger up. School, when you got to go out of service and you got to excuse yourself out of the service for whatever reason, go to the bathroom, whatever, and you stand up and you got to put your finger up and you just all the way out the door. All the way out the door, just, woo, right? And so I said, girl, I said, no. She like, Moo, stay, please. I said, girl, I can't sit here. It's torture, right? And they laughing so hard, but y'all, I'm dead serious. They like, this girl crazy. No, I'm telling y'all, I can't do it. Y'all, I was ready to cry, right? And so when she seen my face, like I wasn't playing, she like, okay, no, just go here. I said, girl, I'm going to cook. I'm going home and I'm about to cook. I'm going to go get my Sunday dinner. And I said, y'all can all come to my house. We got to have a meeting. And I don't even want to talk about him or what I just seen, right? And so they all come to my house and all this stuff, right? And they called me, they're like, what you cooking? I think I was making meatloaf or something. And so, y'all, they came over to my house, y'all, and I was standing in the projects. Didn't nobody care. We over Moo's house. We going to Moo's house, right? My nickname Moo Moo. And so they all come over there, y'all, our kids playing and all this stuff, running through the house. You know, they fighting and arguing and fighting the kids. And we sitting there, and at that time, my stepmom came, her friend, my friend, and like another one or two of her friends or something like that. They all sitting there. And I said, girl, it just ain't right. It just ain't right? And she like, girl, right? And I said, I don't really want to talk like that in front of them, right? So but she was alerting me anyways, like, don't really say too much in front of them because they ate kissers, right? They'll sit here in our faces, right? But they'll go back and be whispering stuff and causing problems, right? And that is a different type of community where stuff spread fast, and then they'll be out there with pitchforks and talking about burn the witch, right? So I looked at her and she kept looking at me like don't say nothing in front of them, right? So I said a little bit of something like, girl, that's just not right? And she looked at me, I knew the assignment. I said, okay. And so she later on called me and she was like, yeah, girl, I was telling you don't say nothing in front of them, right? She wasn't talking about my stepmom, but she was talking about, it was other people. And so she was like, girl, I was telling you don't say nothing in front of them. She said, girl, because they'll go back and run their mouth, right? And she was like, I don't want to be a part of that and this, that, and the other. She said just something I was doing, right? She said I had alerted other people, genuine people that's like hood, hood people that just go to church. They still cool. They still down the ride for Jesus. They love God, but it's just not right? And she said, we all got our own little clique and we talks about what goes on, right? And she said, I had to just bring you in here. She said, I just told her that you an honest person and you going to let us know if we tripping or not, right? And so it wasn't that she didn't tell me that at first, but basically she like, I just want you to see something, right? She kept saying, I want you to see something. I want to know something, right? And so when I went in there and I responded like that, y'all, it alerted everybody. I just couldn't. I was in, y'all, look. And so anyways, we had our own conversation and whatever. And time went on, right? But y'all, I just don't know, right? And I had another conversation. It's years later. Oh, I was going to say about COVID. It was like some years later, right? And then I ran into this other woman. She was an older woman. And started, right? And right when COVID started, I had just found a new job. And so I went inside this job. I was working with special needs MRDD people. And I went inside this job and I was working inside of their homes. And it had to be two of us in the homes at all time, right? I was doing this is the work I do on and off throughout my life, right? Working with special needs. That's just a love, a passion I have. And so me and this lady was working with MRDD, but she was so nasty and always gossiping and always keeping mess going between the workers. And within my first month there, I just seen a lot, right? It was other girls that was young, beautiful. This was an older lady, and she was like real miserable. She was trying to come off like she didn't care and she minded her business, but she was so miserable, y'all. She was miserable. Oh, nasty. Calling, lying. Like one time, I had got to work. I came there on time and everything. And I started to, the guys, I took out their food and stuff for their dinner. And as I'm working, my daughter was back at home. And when I was cooking before I left, but once I got there and I started taking their dinner out, it reminded myself, and I said, girl, I think I forgot to turn off my stove. Now, I stayed right down the street, like 3 minutes away from where I was working at, from the guy's house, right? Because when you go out, they try to find you houses to work at that's closer to your area and where you at, where you stay at and stuff. And so they was only like 3 or 4 minutes down the street from me. And so when I started putting their food out and I got ready, because I helped the two I had wash up and all this stuff and, get them together so they could sit down and watch TV and all this stuff. And I was like, let me go take their food out. I told her I said, I'm going to cook tonight. And she like, girl, you be throwing down. And what's so crazy is that she was actually an okay lady. Like, she was cool, but she was miserable, right? And so I'm washing them up. And I go take their food out, and I remembered, I said, girl, I don't think I turned my stove off at home, right? And she like, I said, my daughter there, and I said, she wouldn't know to turn it off because she in her own little world with her phone and stuff. So I said, she don't know if the food done cooking. I said, I don't know. I said, but I said, I think I'm going to go back home down there and make sure I turn the stove off. And I said, I can take my two guys with me, or you can sit here and watch them real quick. I said, it's only 3 minutes down the street. She knew that. And she was like, no, you just washed them up and everything, and they chilling. She should just run down there, this and the other. I said, well, maybe I should call the lady, the head, the person over the house, to let her know. And she was like, no, you good, right? Something in me told me to still call the lady, but since I was only 3 minutes down the road, I was like, no, forget it. I said, I'll be right back. I'm going to just make sure I turned it off. Because I was calling my daughter and she wasn't answering the phone. I said, I'm going to just make sure I turned it off real quick and then I'm going to be right back, right? Y'all, went in the house by 4. I had 4 birds. Y'all, the 4 birds was dead. This was crazy. I think my ex came in there and did something to the birds, like put something in their food or something like that, in their water or whatever. And y'all, another thing too, I remember before I left out, I never gave my birds faucet water, and I gave them faucet water this day, so maybe it was the faucet water too, because I always get them bottled water. And so, y'all, all 4 of my birds was dead in the cage, and I couldn't even handle them right then and there. I was so mad, 'cause I'm like, where's my... I walk in, my birds is right there by the door, and I look over, and I'm like, where's my birds at? Did my daughter take them out the cage or something? Y'all, they at the bottom of the cage, dead. And I said, oh my God. So that was just already something as soon as I at the door. And I tell my daughter, I'm screaming. I'm like, girl, what is going on in here? Like, she's like, Mama, I don't know. You gave him that faucet water. You gave him that faucet water, right? And I said, I got to call such and such. And I called my homeboy to come pick him up for me and take him out for me until I got home. Put him in a shoebox so I can bury him, have a proper burial for him. Y'all, I was so devastated. That fast, stuff just went tits up. And it's crazy because it was COVID. And so, another thing, too, I didn't drink faucet water. So I don't know if I feel like they was putting something in that faucet, too, because with that COVID stuff. Because my bird, come on now. But anyways, I want to get stuck on there. I went there, I turned off the stove, handled what I had to handle. On my way out the door, I called him and told him that what happened, and he came and took him out for me, but I had already went on here and took off. And so I did still have my oven on. That's what's crazy. So I told her, I said, the food done and everything. I said, I was trying to call your phone until you cut the stove off. She said, Ma, I heard you calling, but I was upstairs using the bathroom and this and the other. So, I went on ahead and left. I get back down there. As I'm coming back down there, the head lady is there at the house, right? And so when she see me, I told her what was going on and everything. And she said, okay. She said, that's fine. She said, but make sure it is that and the other, right? And when she about to leave out the door, she's like, just make sure you call me next time and this, that, and the other. Let me know what's going on and this, that, and that. I'm like, okay. But as she leaving out, she like signaling to me without the lady knowing to come here, to come outside real quick. And so I said, when she leave, I said, I'm going to walk you out real quick. And she's like, all right, whatever, right? But she was signaling me. And so when I go outside, she like, girl. She like, I know that you just ran down here. I know you telling the truth. She said, but just call me. Just call me. She said, you know, I'm cool. I'm laid back. I don't get off into that. She said, but just call me and let me know next time and do it in front of her. She said, because when you left here, she called to me you didn't show up and all this stuff. She said, I see where you showed up. I see where you did your count, your med count and all that stuff. She said, so she lied, not knowing I was going to come in and check the books and all this stuff. And she said, I didn't even call you. She said, because I seen the neighbors was outside. And she said, the neighbors had said something nice about you. So I already knew that when I pulled up that you had came. She said, she tried to say that you didn't show up and all this stuff. She said, but that lady is something else. She said, just watch your back around her and just make sure you call me. I don't care about you leaving. And she said, if anything, if nothing else, if you can't call me or you can't get a hold to me, just take one of the guys with you. So you don't leave her with nothing to say because she's messy and she's miserable, right? And I said, okay, girl, okay, I got you. And so she was cool and everything. She went on nothing. And so she like, all right, call me if you need anything and this, that, and the other, right? And so I go back in and I didn't say nothing. And so the next day come around, I had to work with this lady again. And when I went to work with her, I hear her in the back yelling at one of the guys, get your MFNA up, get your MFNA up, right? This woman saying this older woman saying this to this guy. And when she would do it at first, like she wouldn't cuss down, she'd just say, come on, you get up, you know, with a more sterner voice. But this day she was frustrated. Y'all, I'm in there listening. I'm in there still trying to take the food out because next day I decided I was going to cook too. So I already had got my guys together and everything. And we would rotate the guys out. So some days I would cook and then she would watch the guys. And then some days I would watch the guys and she would cook. You know, we would separate it to switch it. But I still came in that day and I picked out the 2 guys I normally had. And I left her with 1 so it could be easier. She older. And then I went on ahead and took the food out to cook for them and stuff. Y'all, I'm in there taking the food out to cook for them and picking through what I am and what I ain't going to use. And I hear her going off and yelling, y'all. And I dealt with it for so long. And I finally slammed down the food and I slammed down the deep freezer, y'all, and ran in there. I'm walking in there, like marching in there, like I'm about to knock her out because I was so mad. And so I said, I just want to know, why are you yelling at him like this? Why are you hollering and screaming and cussing, right? I said, you always be mean and nasty. I said, I'm used to that, but why are you cussing at him? And she like, because he know what he doing. He know how to stand up and he he play games and right? And I just knew that she was more frustrated than normal, right? This is just not her regular behavior. And so I said, well, you need to step back and I'll do it myself, right? If you need to take a breather, go outside and smoke, do what you need to do. I said, but I'll handle him. Don't talk to him like that. I said, this is ridiculous, right? And so she just go ahead and say, I threw her hands up. If you can do it better, then do it better and all this stuff, right? You good at everything anyways and this, that, and the other. I'm like, well, thank you, right? I could have took it nasty, but I didn't. And so I went on here and got the guys together and stuff like that. They sit down and they watch TV. They go in on here and eat and they went by. And so it was they bedtime and stuff. And the guy she had, he wore that CPAP machine and stuff like that. And so I told her, I said, I got him. I got just sit and chill today, right? I got him. I do everything. And so when I got done putting the guys down and I did everything, I went in there and sat down and I was rocking back and forth on the chair. And she like, I'm just going through so much, right? And I look over at her because I really didn't want to feel pity for her, but still, I still felt it, right? I still felt sorry for her and a little bit of compassion. And I just looked at her. I'm like, what's going on? And she like, girl, she said, my son is special needs, right? My son been telling me his whole life he's special needs. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I understand a little bit of the frustration. And she like, girl, I just help everybody. I'm so tired. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She like, my family. She said, I'm always the one doing. I'm always the one going above and beyond. I'm always right. She said, normally I'm financially okay. She said, I just ain't been okay lately. I'm trying to hold it together. My son had a surgery. I had to pay for half of that out of pocket, all these doctor's visits. And she said, I'm getting old myself. I'm just tired, right? And so I felt bad for her. And so I said, well, she said, I went to the church and asked the pastor for help. Y'all, this what got me. Now, this is years later from that incident and all the other incidences. And she said, I went to the pastor and asked him for help. She said, I only asked him for help ever twice. Twice. She said, I've been with this church for over 25 years. She said, I'm taking all my money. I'm giving them everything. She said, I'm showing up. I'm part of this and I'm a part of that and I'm a part of this. I'm a part of that service and I do this and I do that. Sure. She said, I done went above and beyond, girl, serving this church and giving them this. She said, I only ever needed help twice. And she said, this has been the second time I went to this pastor ever. She said, when I was there for maybe about 5 or 6 years, and she said I needed help with like something small. I think the bill was like maybe $100 and some. She said I went to him, and she said him and his wife had an attitude. She said she left, walked away like I was a problem, and then left her husband to talk to me. He talking to me all nasty like I ain't nobody, like I ain't been served here, like I ain't been gave the money for all these years, right? And he told her, well, you know, since you never came and asked for help, I guess we can help you, right? She said, but it was the way he said it. She said he later came back on, apologized or whatever after they went on here and help, right? Because they didn't know if it was gonna get out to the congregation. That's why he came back and apologized. And so then she said I let that ride. I forgave him and everything. She said it's years later. Mind y'all, she said she was there for 25 years, 26 years at this church, at this place. And she was there for like 6, 7 years before she had to go ask for help. That blew me. And she asked for $100 and some to be paid. And she done gave this church thousands. Probably $1 million. How long that is and how much you give them sitting there. And she said, I've been in every service, 3 or 4 services throughout the day. Go to Sunday church, do this, do that. Anytime they ask me to do something, I use my own time, my own money, my own everything to do what it is that they need to fulfill. When all these dang on, like when they putting all this stuff together to go here and go there, like where people, they might have like a women something, right? She said that she was helping to run that, and when people were short, she was helping them, finding the money for them, or she was just doing her pocket and make sure they can make it to whatever trip or whatever it was that they was doing, right? And I said, you know, that's nice of you and this thing. I said, but I wouldn't have did nothing, right? And she said, well, I'm just really thinking about it. I'm just really thinking about it, right? And I said, well, maybe you wouldn't be having so many struggles if you took that money and paid for yourself. I said, how many times did that collection pay go around? She said, girl, sometimes I go twice. Sometimes I go as 5 to 6, 7, 8, and 10 times, depending on how long I'm there, right? I said, in a day? She said, yes. I said, how many times y'all been service? 3 to 4 times throughout the week. I said, woo, girl, you paid for a house, a car. She said, girl, I know. So she keep talking. She said, girl, I just recently need help. She said, this is why I've been so mean. Like, she said, I don't even act like this. And she said, I've been so mean. And she said, I told on you and this, that, and the other. And she said, I don't do stuff like that. She said, I had to check myself. And she said, I just like a petty, bitter old woman. Like, she said, I don't want to be like that. And so I kind of softened my heart to her. And I said, okay. And she said, but I just want to ask that pastor for some help again out of all these years. She said, another $100 and some, $200. She said, he going to tell me, we ain't your charity. You ain't a charity case. And you coming to us once again. She said, the way they had said it was so nasty. She said, it just broke her heart. She said, it broke her heart. Y'all, I just felt like I wanted to hug. Look, I said, I ain't going to turn you away. You've been there, right? So all I can do is give you some advice. And I told her my story. And how I was raised. And we had a long talk that day. And she had a long cry that day. Snotting and everything. And I said, God don't turn away from you just because you turned away from people who is using you. That ain't how God work. I said, you done read that passage. You done read the Bible. You know the Bible probably more than I can ever know the Bible. I said, you know you don't need a place in a building to go and serve God. God know your heart. God know what you done did. I said, and you ain't got to let nobody. She wanted to be a part of something. She wanted to feel important. And that's where her downfall was. You understand? It was still, I had to talk to her. You still at fault here, right? Because you was doing it for your own selfish reasons. And she said, yes, right? And so she acknowledged, I said, you doing more sinning than if you was to be by yourself and just go talk to God and be honest. She sat there, she wiped her tears. She said, I'm done. I said, you better stand on it. You ain't getting in trouble by no God. I said, girl, ain't no fear there. I said, I was raised like this. I'm telling you. I said, even when me talking to you right now, I'm coming up out of something. It's something stirring up in me, right? All this fear-based mess. I said, but you have to stand on that. You have to really stand on that. Stop showing up. Go talk to God. God hearing you talk to me right now, right? I said, you don't need another person to get to God. Where did that come in from? If you got something you really need to break off of you, what do we do? I said, the people in the forefront of that church with the big old hats on looking like this, and the men over there, that's their husbands, that's on the front pew, they supposed to be there to fast and go into war on our behalf, spiritual warfare on our behalf. I said, they not even doing that anymore. I said, so if you need something broke off of you while I'm up here, honey, God said, all it takes is 2 to come in agreement. And I said, I'm here, right? I love God, God love me, and God love you, and you love him. And I said, so if you go through something, I'm here, honey. Here go my number. And I said, we can fast together. We can fast together and get whatever it is you need broken off of you, whatever deliverance you need. She said, girl, I need deliverance from them. I said, well, walk away. That's all you got to do. Man, let me tell you something, y'all. I was working there for some months after that conversation me and her had. And, honey, the next week she came in there, she was stepping. She was stepping. She had her head held up. She had dreads, right? She went and got her beautiful long dreads. This older woman, she was beautiful, right? And her behavior changed. She came back and apologized to me. She gave me a hug, right? She was happy. She never went back there again, y'all. She was stepping. She came in with her name brand purse, right? She would have got her tune up and her oil change. She told me how since she been there, her and her relationship with her family and her sisters had fell apart. How rocky her and her sister's relationship was, and the jealousy and the competition since she had been in church. She said, girl, she said, I got to calling him. I got to apologizing to him after that conversation. She said, I happened to mean old wicked man mean something. And I said, well, that's you ain't got to confess to me. She said, I just feel good now, right? I'm able to talk to somebody about it. She said, I ain't been able to talk to nobody about this. She said, my son has special needs. She said, he got needs. She said, girl, she told me, she said, girl, I went and bought me a purse, honey. She said, name brand. She had a lunch bag to match the purse. She went and bought her some shoes. She said, girl, I went shopping for me and my son. She said, girl, I got him brand new shoes. The next week she went back. She said, girl, I've been having so much money. She said, girl, when I get my paycheck, she said, I ain't going to the service no more. She said, girl, I've been having so much money. She said, girl, I'm taking me and my sisters out to eat this weekend. She said, my one about to fly down here and I'm paying for her ticket down here. I said, girl. Y'all, and she ended up turning around. She wasn't hateful. She wasn't bitter no more. And she was stepping. She said, girl, I got my oil change. Every day she came in, she had did something for herself, and she was able to save some money. She said, girl, I've been able to save my money. Girl, I've been able to save some money. She said, girl, I got money in my savings account, girl. You know, this is over a period of time, but she like, girl, I got money in my savings account now, right? She was so excited. I said, girl, and you ain't got to turn back. You keep your relationship with God. I said, you go get your Bible. You read what it is that you want to read and ask God to show you, right? If you can't understand it, tell God to give you a clear mind to understand what it is that you're reading. I said, you know this. You've been in there that long. She said, I know, girl. She said, girl, I'm so excited. But I just want to tell somebody, like, you don't need nobody to walk you to the foot of the cross. God is sitting there waiting for some of us to go on his behalf. I'm sorry, y'all, I was eating and stuff. But waiting for some of us he's trying to hear from some of us, right? Even the people sitting in the pews. You go to church every day and you sing. But when have you sat down and had an intimate conversation with the Most High God? When have you had an intimate conversation with just you and God and nobody else? Who told you that you needed somebody to interview on your behalf? That's all I'm saying. You don't need nobody to intervene on your behalf. You don't need nobody to go to the foot of the cross. You don't need nobody. You can sit right in your bed like I do. And I sit here and I talk to God. I complain, I fuss, I fight, I argue with him, and I come back to terms. I apologize and I keep it moving. Me and God be in tussling in the spirit. You understand? And so, y'all, I don't know. That story was just for somebody. You know, I always tell a little bit of my story to help y'all with y'all story, right? It was something else that I want to say. Maybe to come back to me later. But, I knew it was about a conversation that I had. It was another person that came to me, and they was going to the church to cut the grass and do all these different things, right? She was telling me, this person came and they was cutting the people grass, right? When I tell y'all, I was born and raised up in that church, right? Felt hardcore, right? The fear ain't never been instilled in fear. You understand? Fear inside of fear. And so, anyways, this person called me. This was recent, right? And it was like, yeah, I want to cut the church grass. And they was telling me how nasty the pastor was to them, right? And how them and this person came in agreement for them to sell something to the church. And how the wife was sitting up there writing out this thing or whatever. He said they was all cool, laughing and stuff. And he said, and it's just like they turned overnight, their attitudes and how they was treating him once they got whatever it was that they want out of him. Right? He was telling them something. And he said, I felt like they was only being nice because. He said, what do you think about this? And I told him, I said, let me tell you something, right? Not even just with that situation. I said, let me tell you something. I said, when we was coming out of COVID, I said, I reached out to an organization in the program. I said, I was working at this job. I was working with special needs MRDD. And when I went into these people's house, they did not tell none of the workers that the house was bed bug infested. And so I was afraid once I found out, y'all came out with so many bites and sweats on me. I couldn't figure out why was I whelping up like this. I thought I was having an allergic reaction to something. Come to find out, I was talking to one of the girls, and I would notice that when I would go, the girls would be sitting out in the garage and stuff. So I'm like, why do you sit out in the garage? I thought maybe they was waiting for me to come in or something like that. And one day I said something to the girl. She said, girl, we was all saying something about you sitting in there. I said, but why didn't you say nothing? She said, the whatchamacallit lady told her she already had told you. What's that called? The leader, whatever is a leader. She comes in and out to the different houses. She said she already had told us that she talked to y'all about that. And that's kind of like confidential, so we couldn't really talk about it like that. She said, but we said something about you sitting in there. And I said, when I came here, I said, girl, what on me? She said, yeah, because I'm dang on bed bugs. And I said, what? And so I ended up going to the church. I was so scared, y'all, because I'm like in and out of there helping these women out, and they ain't saying nothing. These grimy people, y'all, grimy people all over. Just working with people who need care, and they in these fields, these monsters, these demons, right? Working with these vulnerable souls. And so anyways, I said, I'm gonna have to throw my furniture and stuff away in case I went home and something is in my furniture or it goes, from here to here. Because normally when I come in, I'll take my clothes and stuff off just because I work with, all that nasty stuff or whatever. And, bodily fluids. So I would normally take my stuff off anyways. But they say that in order to get rid of like bed bugs and stuff, you gotta throw your stuff in the dryer or throw the stuff away. But you really want to put it in the heat, a times 1,000. And so, y'all, I ain't ashamed of nothing. You hear me? The heck? And so, this was a while back anyways. But anyway, so I called this lady. I was a part of this organization from when I was pregnant, and I called her and I said, "Hey," I said, "Girl, why the heck the place I'm working at is consumed with bed bugs, man?" And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Girl, yeah." She said, "You have to go somewhere else." She said, "You have to call the pit talking about it." And so, anyways, she like, "Well," she said, "What you want to do?" I said, "My furniture is basically brand new, man." I said, "I'm gonna have to get rid of this because I've been coming here sitting out on my furniture sometimes." And she was like, "Well," I said, I ain't seen them, but I don't want it to spread. I don't want it to spread, right?" And so, I said, "I ain't never really gotten in my bed." So she said, "This is what I'm gonna do." She said, "I'm gonna get you a voucher for you to go get you a box spring and a mattress and a box spring mattress and a frame, right?" And I said, "All right." So she sent me a $500 voucher for that. And then she said, "If you can't do this and that, then I'm gonna do this, right?" She said, "I'm gonna call this place and see if they got some furniture up there." Let me tell you about the church. And so I called up my baby daddy, which was my son's dad. My son had already passed away at this time, right? And I said, "Hey," she called me back and she said, "Hey, go to this place. It's a pastor and his wife, and it's a church and it's right down the street from you. They got a brand new furniture there for you. There for you, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, right. Look at God. Y'all, I get down here. These people heard the word of God. These people heard the sound and the thunder and the roar of God, right? But did what they wanted to do. This church is no longer anymore. And so I called my baby daddy. He had a pickup truck, and I said, "Hey," I said, I gotta go right now. This lady called me and said that the pastor, his wife got brand new furniture for me. I think it was like a sectional. Y'all, was a sectional with a chair and all this stuff in the box, right?" I get there. His wife, it was this big old build, like it was a church, but it was like another part to the church where they put like the canned goods and all that stuff. And it was like rooms inside of that room, like big, huge, like storage rooms inside that room with all this food and stuff in there, right? And so I went in, I'm kind of looking around, and I see this lady sitting on a couch when I get there, and she got her, you sit on the couch, and she got her one arm on the top over here and the other arm like this, and she kind of got her legs crossed, and she looking at me up and down. But when she first seen me, she only had seen me by myself. She didn't see me with my baby daddy, right? He was still sitting in the car, and the pastor, when he pulled up, the pastor's the one told me to go in there and talk to the wife, right? And so he telling him back in right here and all this stuff, right? These people play so many games. When I tell you so many games, when I tell you I am disgusted with the church, I ain't gonna lie. And so she heard God speak to her and tell her to give me that set that was in that box, right? It was a big old one couch there that had like a plug that where the chairs go up and down, right? It was that one thing sitting there, and I believe that they was using that for their own personal use. Do y'all know she told me, "Oh, this is the one right here. This is the couch." And I said, I said, "What about the stuff over in the box?" Me and my husband had decided we're going to get this to a married couple that just got married. And I said, okay. Right? She still ain't see my baby daddy, right? She used to women coming in there and I could tell that she was threatened by me because I was a beautiful young girl. And so when she seen me, she got threatened, and she gave me the personal couch that they were sitting on and stuff in there. Multiple people were sitting on, not the one in the box that the Most High God told her to give me, and she knew that she was supposed to have gave me, right? So before she seen me, right? And the people had just alerted her. She had it already sitting there. It was all sitting there. And then it was the one little personal couch that was sitting there. And so, this is when I'm explaining to the family member who called me and asked me how I felt about this and that, right? And I said, "Look," he said, "They was supposed to give you that, wasn't supposed to give you that used stuff. They was supposed to give you that stuff in the box. And they heard God tell them to do that too, right?" He said, "They gonna get in trouble," right? Like that. And I said, "But you know what? Everybody's heart is being weighed on that scale, right?" And so my baby daddy come in, and the husband went to grab the boxes. She turns around and look at him and say, "Oh, no, it's this one." And he kind of looked at her like, with this look like, "Oh, okay, I guess." And he told him to lift up the couch. And my baby daddy turned to look at me like he really wanted us to walk out of there, right? And he like, ain't saying nothing. I think he went from talking to the husband to when he came in there and he seen that and he seen what they did. He turned around and kind of looked at them and like, "What? Like, really? Like, y'all sitting here playing in our face like this, right?" But once she seen my baby daddy walking in, I can see her soften and cower like, "Oh, shit." Like, oh, I didn't know she was with nobody. Because all she was worried about her husband being who he was, because she knew what he was and she knew what he was in there doing. And so when she seen him walk in, she kind of cowered, right? Because the husband walked in first and he went to grab the box and he telling my baby daddy, "Yeah, come on back up in here," and something. But my baby daddy was still out there messing with the back of his trailer, but he can see him inside the doorway, but she couldn't. So when the husband came in and went to start moving the one box, it wasn't heavy. She said, "No, it's this one." And I'm looking at her like, "Really? Really, you really still just sitting up here playing?" But when she seen my baby daddy come in, she cowered like she knew what she was doing was wrong. Like, "Oh, I thought you was here by yourself. I thought you was in here and my husband was looking at you." That type way. That stuff right there. And so, anyways, y'all, people off the hook. So I went on here to the couch. The husband walks around to my baby daddy's side. He like, yeah, make sure you come back and, you know, this, that, and the other. And then I said, y'all need to stay down the street. Yeah, make sure you come back. But I'm watching the people that they having helping them. And the people that they got helping them is all people that's in need. And I'm watching the fruit out in the front, right? They got these little fruit things stands out there. And I see like, I'm like, they out here handing out fruit to these people that's in need and then using them to do the work in the church, knowing these people are in need and then sending them home with expired canned goods when they got the canned goods that's sitting there. That all this food and all this y'all seen canned goods after canned goods and food on top of food and they sending these people home. I'm watching this while I'm there, bagging them up with old food, expired canned goods, doing this stuff on purpose, being nasty and knowing, using the people to organize stuff and all this stuff, right? These people that are in need, you can see that they are in need, right? You could tell some of them ain't even in their right state of mind, right? And they seeking God. And these people in there playing on a mental illness, a health issues, playing on a position in life. And I'm just looking at these people like, oh my God, this is what I'm talking about, y'all. And I came straight from the pits of the church. I'm telling you something. Y'all, I'm shaking. Y'all, my baby daddy looked over at that man. He talking. And all I see is lust on him. I see the spirit of lust on this pastor. And my baby daddy see it too. And he's telling my baby daddy, oh, make sure you come back down here. And we this and we that. And da-da-da-da. My baby daddy said, oh, yeah, I don't really do church like that, right? And my baby daddy can be rude in the a-hole. But when it comes to certain stuff, he's not like that, right? But the fact that we can both see through him and we both knew what we was looking at and it wasn't no pretending. He like, nah, I don't even do church. I ain't about to sit up in your ear and he ain't called him a pastor or nothing. Bro, I ain't even about to sit up here and play with you like that. I ain't even coming back. We ain't coming back. And when we put off, my baby daddy said, you know that stuff in that box was yours, right? I said, yeah. He said, she's sitting down there playing games, and then he knows she playing games. He's sitting down there. She know he a cheater and lustful, and so she gonna punish the people coming in there getting stuff. I said, I went on here and took the couch. I said, put that over in the garage, because we couldn't fit it through the door. He said, this is a mess. He said, where is the plug at to the thing? I said, it wasn't one. He said, this was a personal furniture they had down there, and they were supposed to give you that furniture, and she sit in your face and play those games. I said, well, I'm going to let God deal with it. I said, and the person I was talking to about this, he said, they did what, right? Because I'm telling you at this time, I'm telling y'all the story of the story I was telling this person and how I felt about the people he was dealing with at this point, right? This is a whole nother place, a whole nother congregation, and a whole nother church and a pastor and a wife. And he telling me what they did, like how he felt like they used him. And he smiled in his face and grinned in his face until they got what they wanted. And then they dismissed him. Once he went to go sign the stuff over to them, he said everything changed. He like, am I tripping? I'm like, no, you ain't tripping. And that's when I started telling the story that I'm telling y'all now about me getting stuff. And so I said, you know what? I said, God tests everybody. And I said, people are behind the scenes praying for their services to take off, praying for their service to come to life again, right? Sitting behind the scene praying and praying. God, could you bless my ceremony, bless my service? And God is sending his people in there. And because it looked like, right? God is not going to send what you think it should look like. God is going to send everything you despise for you to bless it as a test. You understand? And some of these people feel like, oh, I'm going to do what I want to do. But you just pray to God, asking God to bless you, and you wonder why you ain't flourishing. This was right after COVID this happened. I did that, right? She had a lot of bitterness on her. Everybody was being judged in this situation, even me, right? And I said to God, God, you know, I'm very grateful. But I said, God, I'm grateful for anything, right? But that don't mean I should have been done like that. That don't make it right. That don't make it right what that person did, what the people did. And I said, God, I'm just giving it to you, right? Them people are no longer flourishing. The church is closed. The doors are shut. Nobody's going there anymore, not even the people in need. I said to this other person I was talking to on the phone as well, I said, let me tell you something. I said, look at all these homeless people out here. I said, you got billionaires, you got millionaires and all that. They could build all these foundations and all that stuff. I said, they don't do it. They greedy, right? But that's their money. We can't make them do nothing. Right? I said, it was so crazy. I ain't even got a problem with the billionaires and the millionaires moving how they want to and using their money how they want to, right? If you, me, or you. We ain't got to do nothing for nobody, but we ain't going out there playing that role neither. You understand? You understand the difference? And so, I got her, Cardi B, she said, somebody was telling her how she was spending her money. She said, we got to do this and we got to do that. We got to do this and we got to do that. Y'all know how much it costs to do this and do that. And I worked hard for this and that. But that's how she felt. And I respect it. So you should too, right? Respect them. She ain't acting like she this type of way and that type of way. But see, when you dealing with certain people that's sitting high and looking low in these positions and talking about they connected to God, I'm going to say it again, God gave me 999. And the only thing that kept sticking out to me was all the miraculous miracles and all who Jesus was to God and how he kept saying, I'm from God. How you saying that you from God? And I'm telling you I'm from God. And what you doing is not of God. I'm telling you, I'm connected to him. And you going around here, you being nasty, you being messy, you causing problems, you dogging people, you talking about them, you bullying people, you instilling fear, you doing all this nasty stuff, you planning witchcraft, you got people coming after this person, you sending them spiritual attacks, planning witchcraft, and if you ain't doing it, you want to pay somebody to take them out of the running. God is coming. Your time is here. If it's at my door, then it's at yours. And God knows about it. And so, anyways, I was talking to this person, and I said, "You seen what you seen, right?" I said, one thing somebody told me years ago: if it quack like a duck, look like a duck, walk like a duck, then it's a what? It's a duck. That's one of the most dangerous things that you can do is see who somebody is, and they put a mask off, and they show you who they is, and for you to say that ain't it, that ain't what's happening. That is dangerous. That is very dangerous. People want to be somebody so bad that they will go and do anything that it takes, right? Some of these people want to be labeled as saints and all this crazy stuff, right? God ain't let them videos of that Saint Lucinda pop up on my phone for nothing. These people want to be labeled as saints and all this crazy stuff when they leave here, but they not doing saint things. They're being nasty, and they're sending out people spiritual attacks because it look like, because this, that, and the other. And so I told this person, I said, let me tell you something. I said, these churches, I said, let me tell you something. I said, when I call the light and the gas company, I said, the light company says, or the gas company, I said, when you calling, you waiting on hold. I said, it says that, call this place and that place and call this and call that. And it also states, call your local church. Call your local churches to receive help in the finances you need. And so, y'all, I called the gas and light company for like 3 months straight, trying to get stuff straightened out, reschedule, dates to pay this and dates to pay that. We get behind on things, and COVID was happening. I didn't receive the help that everybody else received and the money that everybody else received, right? I believe somebody was doing something nasty then with my stuff and stuff. And so, anyways, I'm not gonna get into that. That's a whole nother conversation. Oh, yes, it is. And so I told this person, I said, do you know about the third, fourth time it finally clicked to me? And I said, when I got on the phone with the lady, I said, what do y'all mean by call your local church? She said, we give funds to the local churches to help the people. Y'all, I was flabbergasted. However you say, I was flabbergasted. So I told this person, I said, do you know I was calling the light gas company, right, all this time? And I said, I kept hearing them say, call this place and call that place and call this and call that organization. I said, but at the end, they would say, call the church. I said, I finally asked the lady, what is she talking about? I said, do you know the church receive funds and the people in the community is not seeing that? I said, I don't know one person who stated that they got help from the church in the middle of COVID, or they got help with a bill in the middle of COVID. I said, they got help from other organizations, but not the churches. I said, the churches received the funds to help the people and did not. So where did the money go? Oh, somebody ain't gonna like me. Somebody got to try to come out their chair and they demon is slobbering right now. Oh my God, back up. They are snarling. Who you think you are? God's child. God's daughter. She a witch. I told you she a demon. But you playing a witchcraft. But you doing crown chakra attacks. And God done showed me who you are. And so, I talked to this person. He said, oh, you know what? He said, they do say that. They do say that. He said, every time I call too, he said, they do say that, right? And I said, I'm telling you. He said, I'm going to go ask him about this and that, right? He called me back. He said, he said, I asked him about that. He said, that man looked at me crazy. I said, he answered? He said, no. I said, let me tell you something. Those places, those churches, I said, how is the church doors closed? I said, the churches should be open 24/7. That's what Jesus did. But these people talking about they connect to God. I'm going to take you back to the page 999 in my Bible. That God did this, God did that. He walked on water. He fed 5,000 with a loaf of bread. All these people, I said Jesus was out there in the community making it work with the little bit he had. He was making nothing into something and something into nothing. He was out there with the people. He ain't put himself on high. He went out there feeding them. He went out there, he took a loaf of bread and jumbled it and mumbled it and talked to God about it, and they came up with something. God came back and fed him, gave him the fish, did all this stuff. 5,000 people, you fed him with a loaf of bread? Ooh, he had that MacGyver in him. He had that whop in him. You hear me? He had some of that God up in him. He had some of that grace and that mercy upon him. And so anyways, like some of us do. That's why they gonna give us a chance, because they know we gonna do the thing. They know we gonna do the thing. And so, and we not gonna glorify ourselves while we're doing it. And so anyways, you got these people out here thinking that they famous. You only famous because you making people fear God and chase. Instilling fear all up in them. And then trying to make them bring their babies up in there. In that mess. Please. Anyways, I don't care how nobody feel about me. They about to come. You already been coming in the back. You already been running your mouth. You already been mocking. You understand? And so, this person was talking to me. We both went back and forth about it, right? And this person, like, as I'm talking, it's clicking certain stuff in their mind, and they tripping out. It's like they having aha moments, like, oh, right? This person is older than me, right? And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I'm like, how is churches closed? Should no church be closed? Ever. Somebody should be on that clock 24/7, because this is the road that they chose, and this is the road that it is, and it ain't. Churches should never be closed. People should always be able to go in there and lay their head down. People should always be able to go in there and take a nap. People should be always able to go in there and feed. I said, how they got all these canned goods and they harvesting canned goods and all this food and got it in the basement expiring, and then they handing the expired stuff out and then keeping the rest in the basement, rotating the expired stuff out and giving it to the people. It's expired for a reason. And then it's telling you to be grateful. Who is you? You sit high and look low, but God said even higher and is looking at you and your deeds and your nastiness and what you've been doing. People out here trying to take you out the running for stuff and think you don't know about what they've been doing and sending you spiritual attacks. I told you, burn the witch. See, I told you she ain't about God. I told you. Been reading all up into your destiny, talking about why she get to be this. Because God said so. But that's the song I heard, y'all. When the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, how I want to be their number. Oh, when the marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, how I want to be that number. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Hey. I'm just going to say this. I was talking to this person, y'all, and a lot of stuff didn't click while I was talking to them. I said, should no church, should no place like that be shut down, and people out here in hardship, especially throughout COVID? If it was Jesus, what would Jesus do? If it was Jesus, Jesus would have took one of those windows out of there and said, hey, come replace this window with a drive-through. We might can't touch each other. We might be all in this situation. But, hey, I'm about to go get some canned goods. We about to come together, and we about to do this and whatever's in the church. Hey, come through. We about to put bags together. We turning this window into a drive-through window. I'm pretty sure Jesus and God is not going to mind you taking one of your $5,000 stained glass windows with a false picture of who he is up there out of the window to put a drive-through window in to help the people. Preach. She going to hell. She going to hell. She going to hell. Oh, she done it now. She done it now. Oh, no, hell no. You done up and done it. You done up and done it. I'm coming after you. I'm getting up right now. Foaming all at their mouth. Demon all talking about you part of God. No, you're not. These people are not. Look at them. Look at them. They being ate up from the inside out for coming for some of us. Look at them. Playing with you. Coming after you. Messing with you. And you did nothing to these people but be innocent. Lying all on you and who you are. And see, I told you that ain't gonna be back. If somebody say some type of stuff like that, you gotta ask yourself. And talking about somebody and doing all this stuff and then saying little slick stuff like they don't know who people referring to. You gotta start asking yourself, what did that person go and do to say something like that out their mouth? Or where is this person at after this person has said that about that person? How did they just disappear like that? Why is their numbers being messed with? Why is this and why is that? It be that person behind the scene doing this stuff. It's not of God. It's not of Jesus. And God ain't gave me those 999 and 666 for no reason. And then I was watching some music videos, scrolling. I look, and on the video, it was named My False Idols, or My Idols, My False Idols, or something like that. It was a song by this girl. And when I looked down at the amount of people that had watched her video, it was like 6666666, something like that. It had multiple sixes back there. So I ended up seeing 999. Then I turned around and seen that, and it's still taking me back to, all the way back to, if Jesus saying, if I am the son of God, and I'm telling y'all I'm connected to God, and I'm showing y'all that I'm connected to God, and my actions is showing y'all what I'm saying, preaching, and teaching, right? And they kept trying to set him up, then you are, guys, now I'm done. I'll be back if it's God's will. These people are pushing out these spiritual attacks. Ooh, they upset. They mad. And just remember, if anybody is turning the attention away from God, they're not from God. If anybody is out here judging somebody, because who are you? Who is you? If you hear judging in people's words, I don't care who they saying they are not a God. If you're not seeing people going out here on a whim without having to record everything it is that they're doing. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with recording what you're doing, right? It's about your intention. It's about your intention. What you're setting. Is you trying to gain glory? Is you trying to the fame? Is you taking the works away from God? Is you taking what God is doing, how God put you here to do a thing? Is you taking the credit from God? Is you turning people's heads away from God and saying, look at me, without saying it? So, y'all, go get your blessing. I got time. Hey, y'all, I'll be back only if it's God's will. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye. I want to say as well, too, before I go ahead and leave, off this here net today. A lot of these people, they came after us and spiritually attacked us, right? And try to take some of our lives, how nasty they have been behind the scene, so they don't get found out in what it is that they've been doing. Some of these people went as far as doing identity theft, running our phones, running our social security numbers through black, what they call that, the black market and all this weird stuff, right? Y'all, I have got so many emails talking about I'm filling out for loans, all these different loan systems. Y'all, I filled out for 2 loans ever in my life. One from my bank, and another one years later. I was like in my 20s, like early 20s. for like a $600 loan years and years and years and years ago. Y'all was in my early 20s. And I'm getting all these loans, different loan notifications. I see you filled out for this loan, and you have been approved for this, and you've been pre-approved for that. And at first, I thought it was just like some type of spam mail, but they started coming more and more and more and more and more and more. And I'm like, what is this? And you got some of these people that has been out here trying to destroy our way of living out of greed, out of being nasty, out of because of what we say and what we don't say, and about exposing what they have been doing. And so that stuff is over with, y'all. It's over with. And these people are going to be found out about what it is that they've been doing behind the scenes to some of us. It is near. It is nigh. It is now, y'all. And so y'all have a blessed one. But boy, be back later. Only if it's God's will.